Are you ready to be inspired, equipped, challenged, but encouraged to move from where you are in life right now to that place you know you are destined to be? Join me, Robin May, in the Intentional Living Room. Hello, I'm Robin May, and welcome back to Intentional Living with yours truly, Robin May. Today is so super special, I can hardly contain my excitement. So, you know how I normally have conversations with some pretty powerful women in the living room, right? I have so enjoyed each of them, but today is a special conversation. Instead of hearing from my sister friends, I have invited some pretty dope fellas to the living room. Yes, that's right. Today, I get a chance to dive into a pretty significant conversation with three men. Today, I will be chatting with my friend Hank Stewart. Hank Stewart is an author, an advocate, especially for your youth, a speaker, and the co-founder of the Hank Stewart Foundation. He does amazing work to transform our community. Next, KD Bo, who I call my brother from another mother. He is in the living room. KD is an on-air personality for Atlanta's Praise 102.5. He is a veteran in the music industry and has leveraged his platform to encourage and empower people, especially men. He is the founder and executive director of the Man Up community. And the last, but certainly not the least, my man is in the living room. My husband, Lee May, will join our conversation. Lee is the former CEO of DeKalb County and now serves as the senior pastor of our church, Transforming Faith Church. Ladies, I'm going to ask the fellas the questions we all want to know. So whether you are married or single, this conversation will help you get into the mind of a man. Remember, like we do every week, I want you to text, tag, and tell your girlfriends to join this conversation. And remember to follow us on all of our social media sites. Remember, the conversation continues even after the cameras stop rolling. Let's go. Ladies, I told you that you are in for a treat. I have three dope men in the living room today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, starting with the dopest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm dope man number one.
You sure are, baby.
My name is Lee May, and I am married to the incomparable Robin May.
Tell them, baby.
17 years.
I love it. Hey, baby.
Hey.
Next.
My name is Hank Stewart. I'm not married, and I've been divorced for about almost 20 years now.
Not when you look like you're about 30.
Just turned 55 and counting. So
I love it. I love it.
That's dope, man.
And now my brother from another mother.
KD Bo. I've been married for 10 years in February.
Awesome.
So 10 years in February. And I'm married. I just said that. I'm married.
You better say it twice.
To Ivy Bo.
Yes, you better say it twice.
Say it with your chest, brother.
Say it with your chest.
I'm married. I was married now.
So I am ready. The ladies have been giving me questions, and so I'm ready to dive right in. So we're going to get to the very first question. This is the question on the minds of so many women, and they want to hear from you. So, Katie, I think I'm going to start with you.
Oh, Lord.
That's
All right,
good.
so
That's good.
Some pressure. This is the question. Why do you think it's so difficult for men and women to have those tough conversations? Like when it comes to those tough conversations in a romantic relationship, what do you think is the problem?
I think because we come from different backgrounds. We all do. You know, I have my stuff, she has her stuff. And when we have conversations, we don't have the same tact and diplomacy that we have with other people. We just want to be able to say it like we want to say it, how we say it, and because we live together and you love me, I should be able to bring it to you as it is.
Yes.
You say keep it real, but when I keep it real, now you want to trip. but we don't do that anywhere else.
Yes.
At work, with our friendships, you know, we use a little tact. You know, we're not just going to say, that makes you look fat. No, we're going to say,
I mean, you better not.
right. So we typically say, you know, hey, you know what? I like you in this. It kind of, you know, shows up your curves, girl, da-da-da. But we don't do that at home. And so just because of the experience of that, you know, many times when we touch those, what I call landmines, it just goes left.
You know what's funny when you talk about these tough conversations, when you said about getting fat, you know, I love, my husband used to be a politician, and
he's still a politician.
he has such skill, because whenever I'm gaining a little weight, baby, do you remember what you always say? I just want you to be what?
Baby, I just want you to be healthy.
That's what he says that is the key for me.
Did it work?
A little bit. All right, so Hank, you're up next.
Okay.
What do you think keeps us from being able to have those tough conversations?
I think sometimes this is how we start. You know, I think if you start out hiding, if you start out, not being transparent, you know, it's hard to it's hard to transition into that open and that transparency. And I think our representatives show up early, and so we don't show you exactly who we are. So when it's time to have those conversations, that's not how it started. So it's hard to keep that lie up. You know, it's hard to keep it up. So I think when we start out transparent and related, then it makes it easy to continue that way.
I love that, fellas. If you're looking. All right, handsome. I call my husband handsome, so handsome. Go
so no
ahead.
offense to y'all.
None taken.
My wife here right here. Actually, my response is very similar to Hank's. It's the mask that we wear, especially in romantic relationships, which typically are the early stages of the relationship, and typically we have the face that we want to present, right? Because we're trying to impress. And then we don't want to get too real, because when you bring your real self to the table, then the vulnerabilities, the frailties, the weaknesses that you naturally have, you know, are full front and center, and we don't want that to be reflected, you know, that early on. So I think it's difficult because, you know, when you don't want to lose that person. And being too real, you might lose them, you know, early on.
And nobody likes to be told that they're wrong. Period. That's one of the best ways to make somebody have an aversion to you is just tell them they're wrong. And no one wants that. So it's just it's how you present it.
Especially, you know, the ladies are going to get so mad at me, but I know there's so many women I talk to. We really feel like that the way we're thinking is the way it should be. Yeah, we do. I hate to tell that secret. Okay, so Hank, I'm going to start with you next. What would you say that a woman can do to get her significant other or her husband to share his feelings? And so if she's saying, all right, I want to know what's going on in his heart, what do you think she can do to encourage him to share?
I think it's how you start, Robin. You know, I think if like Katie says, if you ask me a question and I give you the answer, might not be what you want to hear, but it's my true feelings, then you can't hold me hostage to what I said and not, you know.
So good.
So I think Katie hit it out the park on that. I think you have to make sure if you want transparency, you got to be, you know, if you have to go in another room and cry and all that, but if you want him to continue, and it's the other way around too, from a male's perspective, we want that. We got to be able to absorb what you say and take it and take it with a grain of salt, and then, you know, grow from it. But you gotta, I think, if you give us the opportunity to say what you want us to think, what we really think, and then you get mad, I think that shuts it down. It shuts us down. And
so okay, let me.
And you start. It's almost like this wall behind you. You continue to chip away at it. All of a sudden, now you have no transparency. You have no conversation, because every time I tell you something, I'm going to hear it 20 years from now, and so it makes it difficult.
Hank, that's so good. I'm going to go ahead and put myself on the spot. Okay. Handsome. Lee May, we've been together for 20 plus years, and so
not married 20 plus years,
we've been
but
married,
we've been together for 20 plus years.
So I know early on, you know, way back when we started.
Long time ago.
I made it difficult for you to share because my response. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, in like high pressure moments when they're challenging times and I have to share something, and just your initial response, really, and you can't say that somebody made me act or behave this way.
Right.
But it made it difficult for me to want to be able to come forward as early as I can. Not that I'm hiding, but my intention was, well, let me work this out first, then bring it to you. You know, let me handle it. Let me have all the answers before I bring it to you.
Because of my response.
Yeah, because of your response. But the challenge with that was, number one, if I wasn't able to fully work it out. If you found out about it before I brought it to your attention, now we have those challenges. And so it's kind of a balancing act. I wanted to bring it to you, but didn't feel like you could handle it, or I just didn't want to deal with the drama that would frankly come with You know, just kind
The
of
drama.
a tough.
Your wife never gave me no drama. Okay, so Katie, I'm gonna put you on the spot.
This is a tough battle.
I feel you, baby. Listen.
Because after it's over, it's not over. It's
Yeah,
still not over.
right. It's over, y'all.
Katie and Hank, y'all are like,
We can go home.
What's happening? So, Katie, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I want you
Yeah.
to talk to the woman who has been dating someone for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And she's ready for this to be permanent, and he's not saying anything along those lines. What would you say to that woman? She's ready for it to move into marriage, and he's not saying that. It's been 3 years. What would you say to that?
I would wonder why you haven't said anything. I mean, you have to be honest. If you want honesty, if you want something real, then you have to give your real, true feelings. I mean, I'm not after 6 months. Oh yeah, you my boo, you my husband. That's too fast. But after 3 years, we typically know what we want, and we know who you are. We know what your limitations are. We know what your strengths are. And the truth is, if you keep giving that to us with no responsibility to you, then we're not going to go outside of our way to make sure that we just going to step out there and be like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and marry you. You ain't asked for that. And I'm getting all this, but I'm just going to go ahead and just do right. Some will. A lot just won't.
Katie, that is so good. So, Hank, I'm going to say to you, how do you think a man, or how quickly, I know this might be a tough question, but how quickly do you think a man knows whether or not she's the one?
It's relatively quick.
Tell him,
I
yep.
think it's relatively quick. I think, and like Katie said, and I know for Lee, Lee lights up. Lee lights up when he talks about you. So I know, it had to have been early on.
I am taking notes.
Right. He did. He lit up, and so I think it's early on. I think. It doesn't take a long time because in the conversation, if there's commonalities. When you start to see the way someone handles something that goes wrong or goes right, you start looking at all those things when it becomes a serious conversation. So I think it's early, and when I say early, I'm talking about within a couple of weeks. You would know that is moving in that direction. Now, you might not always verbalize that, like Katie said, because around 6 months, you ain't saying that you my boo and I got the ring in the car, because I think you need to go through some seasons with some people too.
Yes, it's so good.
But
That's
you do.
important.
Yeah, you have to go through some seasons.
Okay, so we're going to come back, and I have to come back at that point. We're going to stop right here on the point of you have to go through some seasons. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I'm so excited for our ICM, our intentional coaching moment. It is during this time that I get to talk directly to you. So let's chat. I shared in a previous episode that I have a twofold passion, empowering women and equipping couples. It truly is my heartbeat. And so, of course, this particular episode is right up my alley. I work with so many couples on a daily basis that are trying to navigate the terrains of their relationships, and they often find themselves stuck when it comes to their communication. The husband and wife will come into my office, they'll plop down on the couch, and they'll say, "We just can't seem to communicate." The couples are often surprised when I say, "I wonder if the issue really is about communication." See, I have found that the real issue is that something is impacting their connection, and the byproduct of that results in communication challenges. Again, when something is blocking our ability to connect, then of course our ability to communicate will be impacted. It's super important that couples work to identify the undercurrent that is impacting their connection, and then we can work on the communication. But with that said, I'm not going to leave you hanging. Communication is important, so I am going to go ahead and help you out. I have what can be an eye-opening exercise for you and your spouse or your significant other. I'm going to share with you 5 common blocks to effective communication. And this is what I want you to do with the information. I want you to jot down all 5 of the blocks that I'm about to share. And I want you to ask your partner which of those 5 blocks that you most often demonstrate. Now, let me give you this warning. This is not necessarily an easy assignment. It can be very tempting to respond back to your spouse or significant other with something like, "Well, you're the one that does that." Please resist that urge. I want you to stay open. If your partner asks, you can then give him some feedback, okay? All right, here we go. Here are the 5 common blocks to effective communication. Block number 1, the need to defend our position. Defending your position instead of seeking to understand where your partner is coming from will challenge your communication. Here's roadblock number 2, a pattern of deflecting. Our communication is challenged when we don't own our role in moments of conflict, but instead we deflect the full responsibility on our spouse or our significant other. Block number 3, a tendency to be dismissive. Our communication is immediately impacted when we minimize or dismiss our spouse's feelings and even our own feelings. Okay, let's keep going. Roadblock 4, a habit of being disrespectful. When we are disrespectful by our words or our body language, we are definitely impacting our ability to communicate. It's hard to have a healthy conversation when you're being disrespected. And then lastly, roadblock 5, a pattern of shutting down. When we shut down and decide to stop talking without any resolve, it can cause our partner to feel ignored and stifled. So there you have it. Again, here are the blocks. Our communication goes wrong when we, number 1, defend our position, 2, deflect our role in the conflict, 3, dismiss our spouse's feelings, 4, disrespect our spouse, number 5, when we shut down and we don't continue the conversation. Remember, I want you to share these 5 roadblocks with your spouse or your significant other and ask them which of the 5 you demonstrate most often. But don't stop there. I want you to consider what your partner shares with you and intentionally work to improve that particular area. Girl, like I said, I know this one isn't easy, but I know you can do it. That's it for our intentional coaching moment. Let's continue our conversation with the fellas.
And we are back with some more of this conversation. All right, fellas, when Hank mentioned seasons, everybody was like, yes, you were like, this is on point. Lee, why do you think that stood out to you so much?
Well, it really shows who the whole person is, right?
Yes.
You know, you want to know how they deal with life when it's 95 degrees outside, or whether it's 2 degrees outside. You want to know how they deal with life when finances are tough, you know, or their relationship issues. You want to know how they deal with just health challenges, you know. And when you spend time, you get with people, you get to see, you know, how they kind of traverse through life, right? How they go through the tough seasons, the good seasons. Do they celebrate life, you know?
That's important.
And that's what time is really about. It's not time for time's sake. It's to see how you are handling life throughout life, you know?
I love that. All right, here is a tough question for you all. Let me throw this out here really quick. So, especially in Atlanta, attractive women are a dime a dozen. So beyond how bad she is, what do you think really draws a man's attention to a woman? Like, what do you think of the things that really attract him? What is he looking for? Katie, I'm gonna start with you.
She ain't crazy. That's a big part of it. And, you know, crazy is a little term. I don't even know if you're supposed to say crazy, but, you know, she's not insane. Well, you know, because, you know, right. Pretty attractiveness is relative, number 1, but it is a dime a dozen. It's very rare that you find somebody who is good from the inside out. And you got the little context clues, what I call it. How do you treat people? How do you treat the server? How do you treat the janitor? How do you treat the person at the front desk? What do you like when you're upset? Because let me tell you something, that seasons piece, you don't know where the holes are until it rains. And so you just got to find the person, or beyond that, just it's more than pretty, and guys feel it when we see you. It's in your eyes. Like people say, crazy. Keep saying it's in your eyes. You could tell something ain't.
Katie, let me
she fine, but something ain't really.
Lee says all the time. He used to say all the time. I'm gonna make it more politically correct. He would say, "Everybody is crazy. It's just how much crazy you can handle."
That's right.
That's true.
About
That's
certain
true.
things. This is true.
That's true.
This is true.
Yeah, we all have our stuff.
Right.
And so I love that. Okay, your turn, Hank. What would you say to that question?
I think there's 2 things for me: spirituality, not religion. but spirituality, how spiritual she is and her connection, right? I think that's real key because you see that in the seasons, you know, how they handle the seasons. And then I think the other thing is somebody's heart. I like community service and all that. So people who are willing to give of themselves, not looking for anything in return, no hidden agenda, no ulterior motive, because somebody needs help, or you know, that's sexy to me. That's a sexy trait to me.
I love that. Service is sexy. How about that?
It is.
All right, Lee May.
So I love these, right?
Not crazy.
You know, not crazy, spiritual. You know, I love that.
I'm nervous. What are you about to say?
No, really. Somebody that's passionate for life, right?
Hey, man,
that
that's
just
good.
has fun, right?
That's,
you know,
that's good.
You don't want nobody that's kind of a Debbie Downer.
Don't want to get up in the morning.
Don't want to get up
Or depending on you for everything for the fun.
Well, what you want to do?
Yeah.
I don't
know what you want to do.
You know, just that passion
that's
for
true.
life. I'm serious. That will go a long way with a brother. Really.
I love that. Okay, so I'm going to start with you this time. What would you say for you? What does support look like to you? Men often say they want a woman who, you know, they say they want to ride or die. I want to know why we got to die. But anyway,
You got to be willing to die.
No,
That's all it is.
No. And so, what does support look like for you?
Support means supporting me the way that I need to be supported, which means listening to me, listening to what my needs are, and then supporting me based upon what my needs are, not the way you think that I need to be supported.
You're getting real passionate about this.
You were just representative of all the women.
Other people.
That's right.
I'm trying to help the women.
I got that.
Just
Because early on in our marriage, you know, when we got married, the women that I looked up to, fellas, they would do things like make their husbands suitcase, fix his suitcase. What do you call it? Pack his suitcase. When he's getting ready to
clearly
leave.
you don't do that.
And so look, I wasn't trying to do those kind of things, and you didn't need that.
I didn't need
wasn't
that. Wasn't
right.
You know?
That wasn't him. And so
fixing my plate. And all
That's
stuff,
not important.
me.
Right.
That's not important. So when you do that or want to do that, I'm like, no, I'm good. But I got some other things I need help.
Yeah, and so when I would do those kind of things, that would be your response, like, okay. And so I realized that wasn't what you want. Okay, Hank, what about you? What does support look like?
I think there's a quote that says, and I'm going to flip it a little bit. There's a quote that says, and I'll apply it to you, Robin. You're the type of woman who would straighten another woman's crown without letting the world know it was crooked.
Yes.
Okay, so
is that a poem?
That's a quote, though. It's a quote.
Okay.
But I said that because that woman who is who supports you, she does it without the whole world. She ain't got to put a billboard up to say I did this or did that. You know what I mean? She, like Lee, straightens your hair. She wants to make sure that the world sees you at your best.
Yes.
Whatever that is, you know what I mean? So if your tie's a little crooked, she ain't gonna let the camera roll until that tie is straight. So it's just those little things, you know?
I love that.
Yeah, support, that's good, man. You know, a lot of times it's about, many times, this is just what you just said, how you're relating to me ain't got nothing to do with me. It's the person that was before me and what they liked. And so you got to get to know me. Lee said it best. You got to be able to support me. And it's not just about what you think, it is what I really need. And when I say ouch, do you listen? Do you care? You know, are you one of those people that just wants everything for you, or are you willing to be the second man for the sake of, are you willing to let me win?
I love that.
In the case.
Yeah, I love it. So you just said something that stood out to me. You said that a woman is often dealing with the man that she's dating based on the experience she had with someone else.
Yep.
I want to know how often that happens for men. How often are men rebounding from a situation or responding to their significant other based off of things? Because you know, I tell my husband all the time that I'm still dealing with his 8th grade heartbreak. I tell him all the time, and I know her name. His 8th grade heartbreak. So Katie, what would you say? Do you agree with that? Do you think
I'm still mad about
that?
Absolutely. When I was on the dance floor, I think it was in the 5th grade, and Willette Bailey.
What was playing? What song was playing?
I don't even know what song.
Okay,
all I know is she had me out there. She was dancing. I mean, all that body on me. I'm like, hey, I wasn't ready. You know, I'm my little country self. And I froze. I didn't dance. And so she kept dancing. And she walked off the dance floor and left me there. And I said, and this is the bad part. I was like, oh, come back. I'm gonna dance. Oh, I'm so ashamed even saying that. But it's that. Don't do that. It's that level of heartbreak that it really does impact us long term.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah. Do you agree with that, Hank?
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's not just relationship, but sometimes it's how we deal with our parents. So you know, some of us are competing with your daddy. you know, or your mama, you know what I mean? Not necessarily just you, but your parents. And so you trying to make me your father. You don't know what your mama had to go through to get your dad to get to where he's at.
Whoa.
You with me?
Whoa.
But you holding me accountable to your daddy 20 years, you know, and your mom went through a whole lot of stuff. Your grandmama went through a whole lot of stuff with your dad. You know, so it's not just relationships of past, it's who you're comparing me to, you know.
So I want to end with this, and Lee, you can start. I want to end with this. What is the one word advice that you would give a woman when it comes to understanding a man? Like, what is that one thing you would say to her?
That one word?
No, one statement you would
Okay.
share with her, one word of wisdom. When I say word of wisdom, that's the churchy way of saying statement of wisdom.
Right.
Yes.
Concerning on how to relate with.
Yeah, understanding a man. Mm-hmm.
Be quick to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Be quick to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And listen.
And keep listening.
And keep listening. That's
I love
right.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, Hank, what would you say?
I'm about to use Lee's listen. I think we sometimes we're so quick to want to respond that we didn't hear what was said.
Mm-hmm.
So if you listen, I think, you know, you'll hear more, a lot more. You hear the heart, you hear the experience, you hear a whole lot of things when you listen. And so I stick with the listening piece.
Same thing they said. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. You know, sometimes we're so hell bent. I cannot say hell bent. So hell bent on.
Yeah, that's good.
So hell bent on getting the point out that you really don't. You're not really listening. But just hear them. And when you hear, man, it's amazing what you'll find. Just listen.
That was supposed to be my last question, but I got to say one more thing.
Okay.
Because all three of you stood with the listening. Do you think that that's an area that women are struggling with in relationships?
I think that's something that we all struggle with,
Yeah.
men and women.
Yeah,
so, but we're talking about our, you know. But I think I think men are sometimes you done said something, we've already got our response to what you said. So I ain't heard nothing else.
That's right.
Because I got my response, you know. But I haven't really given you an opportunity to explain. So I think listening to me is that key
And
component.
that's why, you know, when we talk to couples about how they communicate, you know, when emotions are high, you know, we recommend, you know, you separating for a little bit so that you can lower those emotions and then come back together and talk when
That's
things
key.
are balanced,
You're
when
right.
things are, you know, level now.
When I'm talking
you know?
to Ivy sometimes, and it takes me a minute to get her point because I only see what I want to. I only hear what I want to hear, and if I don't hear it, I judge it based on how far away it is from what I want to hear.
Exactly right.
Instead of really hearing what she is really trying to say. Yeah. And she keeps saying it over and over and over again, just louder sometimes. But I'm only hearing it
You hear what
I want to hear. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. That was amazing. Thank you so much for being in the living room. Ladies, I told you that you were going to get some good information. Stay tuned for our final wrap up. As we close, I have some breaking news for you. Now, this is going to be a shocker, so get ready. Here it is. Men and women are different. I told you it was going to be a shocker. We often think differently, we communicate differently, and we make decisions differently. I know, that's a shock. But it is interesting to me when couples come to see me for counseling because they start out with that very thing. They say, we just think so differently. Well, actually, that's a good thing. One of my favorite reminders is actually a scripture that says, iron sharpens iron. Well, that sharpening process is not an easy one, and it often comes from friction. So the fact that men and women are so different is a good thing because it helps strengthen us so that we can both be molded into the best versions of ourselves. Well, that's it for this episode. I hope you took some good notes. This is surely one that you can come back to over and over again. Remember, if you aren't living with intention, you are living passively. And when you live passively, life is happening to you. You aren't making life happen, and you are way too fly for that. I'll see you soon.